All right, we're ready to
She
go.
has been.
Can I have the roll call, Lisa, please?
Gibson? Here. Kaplan?
Here.
Kulkarni? Ormsby?
Here.
Satterfield?
Here.
Stoltenberg?
Here.
Wendland?
Here. Okay, good evening, everyone. We had minutes from the meeting of November 20th, 2024.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move for approval of the November 20th minutes as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from November 20th, 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, the minutes are recommended for approval. So good evening again, everyone. We are the Plan and Zone Commission. There's an audience of 4 out there. You might have set the record for the lowest, pretty close to it. So thank you for coming. We are a recommending body appointed by the mayor and the city council to review matters of land use, zoning, and things like that. So at the appropriate time, if you have comments on the case or if we have questions for you, I'll ask you to step to the podium that's to my right and your left, and we'll communicate. We'd love to hear what you have to say. And with that, Greg, we will get going.
Mr. Chairman, tonight's case is involving a rezoning taking place at 438 16th Street. It's proposed from R2, single-family residence district, to C2, community commercial zoning. The site is right here. We've got Grant Street with a major thoroughfare running through. 16th Street and Brown Street is where the intersection is, where this building happens to be located. It was previously Edison Academy, a learning institution, and then it was a post office prior. Both those uses were permitted in an R2 district. Current land use is mixed transitional, which permits this type of zoning. As you can see, mixed transitional is throughout this area. It's anticipated that this area in our comp plan has been designated to be an area that would accommodate the type of use being proposed, which is office space. The surrounding area is neighborhood light. We have the mixed transitional, and then we have the community commercial land use designation just due south of this building. The other areas that we're looking at here for zoning, we have R2 to the north primarily and to the east, but there's a commingling from 19th Street all the way to the interstate west of commercial and also residential zoning. We have a C2 parcel right here, just 2 lots over. We've got R4 here, and then we have C2 to the south of the alley. This is the structure as it is bordered by 16th Street and Brown Street. What we have is a parcel that is 0.517 acres in size. It meets all of the requirements in terms of square footage and lot width for the proposed use. And office uses are a permitted use within the C2 district. This is the plan layout. This is the basement level of the building as it exists. This is intended for storage only. But the areas highlighted in yellow are areas to be occupied as rental space for this particular building on the first floor. The total building square footage rental area is 4,188 square feet. When we look at the thoroughfare and access to the area, again, we have this means of entering in an alleyway that separates this area that is now vacant and then the actual building. So there's a means of access here to parking in this area. There's also Brown Street where there's an exit way over here where the parking can be also accessed on the west side of the building. And then we have Interstate 74, which is only 2 blocks away. This is a view here showing the utilities as they exist for electrical. There are other utility connections already to the building. The building is not going to be materially changed except maybe in the interior. And the utilities are all accessible, and the fire department and community development department will evaluate any other future type of needs for utilities. This area is also governed by the overlay district, downtown overlay district, so essentially any exterior treatments that need to be changed will have to be governed by those regulations as well as any signage. The pedestrian and trail access, essentially you have 4-foot sidewalks all the way around the building. You have a recreational trail down here on Grant that connects to the 4-foot sidewalks that are nearby the structure. And this is the parking layout for future spaces as they will be striped. You have 17 parking spaces that are required, 30 will be furnished. If there's any additional parking needing to be added, it will be done on these lots to the south, and they will have to be made of a dry, dustless surface, that paving. There are 2 ADA parking spaces right here that already access the building. And when we do evaluate any rezonings, we take them through the 7-step test. Essentially, what outrightly the rezoning requirement that is met is through Goal C, to attract and retain business and industry, and that is part of the Goals and Plan Organization segment of the comprehensive plan. The mixed transitional future land use does permit C2 zoning, and that meets requirement number 1. And then we talked about the economic development goal to attract and retain business. That's requirement number 2 being met. Requirement 3 is that the provisions of the zoning ordinance 11-15-13B1 and 11-15-13B2 are met, and they are. And then we look at the subject property and the zoning being requested and the characteristics of the zoning district that will not negatively impact nearby parcels. The parcel use is of a lesser intensity than the surrounding commercial uses, but also it was of a lesser use than the actual post office that was one time there. And also it didn't draw as many people as did the Edison Academy to the site. The intent is for a mixed-use commercial development to occur in this part of the city as indicated already in the comprehensive plan. The 5th step in this test is to look at the externalities and applicable standard requirement factors governing noise, lighting, odors, and the like. The business activities in this location will be concentrated within the structure. And the vehicular traffic will enter along the alleyway, or it will enter from 16th Street. It will exit onto Brown Street as it's currently designed, but that may change. It may be an entry and exit point in the future. The pattern has occurred around the subject property is examined, and other characteristics of the subject property are considered to make a determination regarding the request for a zoning amendment. And again, it's the close proximity of the commercial zoning that has been within this area, and the fact also that we are looking from 19th Street on to the west, all the way to I-74, and we see this commingling of C2 within this area south of Brown Street. Staff in evaluating also the types of zoning classification changes that have occurred. The latest happened to be in the early 90s. For C3 zoning further south and west. Most of this zoning has been in place for several decades. Also, too, the final consideration here is the amendment is the public interest and not solely the interest of the applicant. So the services that will be provided help facilitate contributions to our local community with the office space provided. It's an infill use requiring if little any infrastructure change or utility connections, and we have an increase in tax base by the building being occupied as once was used for the Edison Academy. The conditions that staff would place upon our recommendation for approval would be that any future parking be consisting of a dry, dustless surface for any additional parking that would be included on lots south of the alley. I would ask, are there any questions?
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Mark, anything to add in addition to what Greg's presented?
I think it was a pretty thorough staff report.
Yeah.
I would note, I think Greg may have caught this in there, but less than a block away, so to the northwest, you have the existing Lord's School and church site. This is an area in transition. You know, we understand Lord's has built a new church and a new school, or it's under construction. So as we plan for in our downtown, we're starting to see some of these properties come up for sale and be transitioned. And this is a symptom of that, or one of those things that's happening. But I would also remind you, you're probably going to see others come to bear. So as you look at those existing zonings, those R2s, which would include the Lord's location, those are likely to come up for redevelopment in the future.
Thank you, appreciate it. All right, we're going to open a public hearing now. Is there proof of publication for the public hearing? Yes, there is. I'm going to open the public hearing, and at this point, I would ask if there's any public comment regarding this case from those in the audience. Anybody out there want to chat? No? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing, and then I will ask for discussion and/or questions by the commission.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Greg, You talked about the parking, and there's a great illustration in the packet that shows where the parking spots are located. This area to the south, does that belong to the city?
No, that is under the ownership of the agency that is requesting the rezoning. In this case, it is 1525 Brown Street LLC, represented by Gary Quinby. I believe they have the ownership. It is not under city ownership. And
Okay.
many properties are being consolidated right now within this portion of town under different ownerships of a
Okay.
commercial nature.
Okay. So the applicant owns the property to the south?
Correct.
Okay, well, then that makes it easy. It's not what we're considering. We're not looking at that property tonight, but it is available if necessary for additional parking.
Yeah, and this, as Greg pointed out, the aerial doesn't show all the parking that's there because some of it's under an overhang. So I think there's 30, 40 spots
Yeah.
on that parcel already. So there's a little more than that, than you might, if you did a drive-by today, than you might have observed.
Yeah, there's parking here as you come down the alley, and there's parking here, and there's more anticipated to be lined up here along this private driveway.
So if this project is approved for rezoning and moves forward, what in the development of this would trigger the need for additional parking? The nature of the occupants? How does that work within the city process?
We would look at that, and we would also, we try to have people consult us about any changes, and it's also something when there's building permits that are applied for, we evaluate that at that time, the use is going in, and we see whether or not the parking is going to go over a capacity level for that particular area.
Our parking is use-based, not zoning-based. So if that makes sense, so we have use types that are defined.
Right.
Medical office is different than a general office, is different than a retail. So our parking code is use-based, and we would look at those uses that would occupy this. Right now, it's proposed as general office, and we would make them park it at what is required for general office, which it is parked appropriately for. It was probably, to be honest with you, it was probably underparked in its two previous uses, but codes change and things happen. So we don't think parking is a concern right now. And if it were a concern, there's adjacent land that could be
Okay,
used for
that's-
parking as long as it was a dry, desolate surface.
That's exactly what I wanted to know. Thank you.
I didn't know you closed it. Can I still ask a question or no?
She can still ask questions, just not.
Yeah, go ahead.
I live on.
We're gonna get you on the recording back there.
I don't know the rules. Okay.
Tell us who you are and what your address is, and then tell us everything you want to tell us.
You don't want to know all that. My name is Mona Pfeiffer, and I live at 1509 Brown Street, which is just a couple houses down from that.
Let's have Greg put a dot on that. Is it
You're pretty close.
one
Yep.
more?
Right. And I was told at one time that pretty much everything around me is already zoned commercial, and that I'm one of the only residential ones there. I don't know what all of that means, but I'm just trying to figure out what I need to be concerned with and what's happening down there. And, I don't understand, you hear all kinds of things, but I just didn't know.
So take a look at the map that Greg's got up here now. If you can see it, if you have to walk over there, see where his cursor is.
Yeah.
So the color coding in that with the yellow, that's currently R2 or R4. That's R4. The
Residential.
residential, thank you. The red is existing commercial C2. So those areas where he's got the cursor going, one kind of lot just to the east of you, one more, there's one in there, and that would make a total of 4 lots, if I'm reading it right, if that was originally single platted. But yeah, there is a smattering of different types of zoning in there currently. The map to his left, that's our land use map for planning purposes. So that kind of gives you an idea of the types of things that the future plan calls for. So mixed transitional, civic, public, semi-public, the codes down in there. One is kind of a guideline of where we see it headed. The other one is currently as it is zoned.
Okay. So just wait and see what happens.
So you want to explain maybe like what goes in mixed transitional? What is in that area where her house
I will
is?
defer to Greg to tell us about what's in mixed transitional.
It's basically an upgrade. What you're looking for is like C1, C2, and then certain types of multifamily housing that could go in there. In this case, the way these lots are laid out, many of these have been combined. Right here, this is a 3-lot, lots 1 through 3 of the town of Bettendorf, right here, block 4. So many of these lots are somewhat, the idea is that they're gonna be consolidated into something most likely commercial. But mixed transitional allows you to get to that C2 level.
Mr. Chairman, can I jump in with maybe
Sure.
a less technical answer? Because I think what's being asked is, what's going on downtown Bettendorf, right? That's the question. You own property in downtown Bettendorf. Couple things I would think about. Bettendorf's downtown is becoming a downtown, I would say. And so that's going to include uses like commercial and residential and apartment and multifamily. And so we see all those things kind of coming to our downtown now. The lofts here, the loft apartments here are a great example of that. And then the amenities that serve those type of living arrangements. So it's transitioning from what was an industrial and workforce housing downtown to probably more of a entertainment, housing, apartment style downtown. So that's what's going on. If you want some really cool details on that, you can look at our downtown master plan. It's available on our website. I would also be happy to help you find it if you wanted to. And you can kind of see what the plans are for the downtown overall. Again, these are plans. They're not necessarily going to happen.
So nothing's saying I have to move or anything.
Nope.
Okay.
Nothing says you have to move. And if you want to look at those plans, I can show you where they're at.
Okay.
But all of it kind of depends on the private sector coming in and spending money and developing, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate your questions. All right, anyone else from the commission? No? All right. We have to do a roll call for a motion and a second, or a motion and a second recorded.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case number 24-072, subject to the staff recommendations.
Okay, Scott for the motion.
I'll second.
Ooh, that was close.
I'll flip you.
You flipped it. Heads or tails?
Oh, Ann wins.
Okay, it's
Doesn't
Ann,
matter to
Ann in
me.
the second. Okay. All right, let's have a roll call on the motion, if you will, Lisa.
Gibson,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Ormsby,
Yes.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Stoltenberg,
Yes.
Wendland.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Case 24-072 is recommended for approval, which would take us then to staff updates.
If you're available to join us to Friday, getting my days confused, Friday for some libation and merriment, we'd love to have you.
And that's at 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Singlewood.
Be there or be square.
I'm afraid I'm
All right.
square.
Oh, man. All right. If there's anything else for the good of the order, or adjourn.